How's it going, everybody? Mr. Holton here, and as you may already have heard, Exodus, the upcoming third-person action RPG being led by former Bioware devs, has quote-unquote lost their leader, James Ohlen, who has apparently decided to step down from his position as the big boss man of Archetype. Now, going by the internet reaction so far, I'm gonna go by the assumption that you guys are likely panicking right now, but no fear, Mr. Holton is here to quell all your doubts and explain this whole thing so you can go on with your day in peace and calmness. God, I hope I'm right. Anyway, let's start off by rating this entire article by Bloomberg, okay? So the title of the article is Hasbro hires video game boss as Exodus studio head steps down. Blizzard veteran Paul Della Bitta will take over the video game division. Hasbro Inc., the toy and gaming company, is bringing in a new executive to lead the expanding video game effort under its Wizards of the Coast label. Blizzard veteran and Dreamhaven Inc. co-founder Paul Della Bitta will take over the Wizards of the Coast's Digital Ventures division under Wizards president John Haidt, also a Blizzard veteran, Hasbro said in a statement to Bloomberg on Wednesday. James Ohlen, as they mentioned before, the co-founder, will step aside. At this point, James felt his work on the game was complete and that the polishing and tuning were in great hands with the team, said Abby Hodes, Vice President of Corporate Communications for Hasbro, in the statement. Hodes added that Ohlen had asked to shift his creative focus to tabletop role-playing games and would stay on as a creative consultant for the company. Again, what the article mentions here is that James wasn't asked by the company, by Wizards, to step aside. He had apparently asked himself that he could take more of a creative role or do something else, like work on his tabletop games. We'll all of a sudden get back to that in a moment, just to make sure that you guys understand this is not Wizards that pushed him out, it's him kind of pushing himself out. As odd as that might sound. Anyway, it continues. Exodus, a sci-fi role-playing game that has been in development since 2019, is one of Hasbro's many ambitious bets in the video game space. The game has been delayed several times and is now slated for release in early 2027, the company said last week. The intellectual property for Exodus was established such that it could be not just a base for video games, but a bunch of other things as well, Archetype co-founder and general manager Chad Robertson said in an interview last week. He called it the tip of the spear for Hasbro's entry into big budget games. Video games are expensive endeavors, with the biggest projects costing hundreds of millions of dollars, but they can be lucrative. Hasbro's Baldur's Gate 3, which was made by the external developer Larian Studios, has sold more than 20 million copies. Last week, Hasbro also announced a Dungeons & Dragons game called Warlock. Earlier this year, the company said it would partner with Stig Asmussen, director of EA's hit Star Wars Jedi action games, to develop a different action game in the Dungeons & Dragons universe. So, that was the article. Now let's break this down, because of course the first concern is obviously James himself. You know, we mentioned this earlier right here in the article that he apparently is stepping down, like he's stepping aside from being the boss of Archetype, but you might be asking yourself, why? Because I've seen a lot of comments on this. People are discussing this already in that, okay, but it's, you know, it doesn't really give you any good faith when the leader himself steps out or steps aside. Because usually when that happens, right, there is some cause for concern, because it might have to do with creative vision or the fact that whatever he wants to make is not what Wizards would want to make. But here's the thing, right from the beginning when he started Archetype, he had one condition, and that was the fact that he wanted to have full creative control over Archetype, and they were not going to, you know, intervene, and that's what they agreed to. I don't think that that's the case here, that they are intervening. Again, you might be saying, oh, he's just coping. But the thing is, I've been following this game for a while, so I have a feeling that this is not as bad as it sounds, but, you know, just when you hear it, obviously you're going to be like, oh, warning flags, hello. But going back to James, the thing is, James is a very peculiar person, right? He's a hugely creative guy. He is the guy who creates worlds. He is the DM. He's the Dungeons and Dragons DM. He's that kind of guy, right? He has incredible fantasy. He has incredible worlds that he wants to build. And this is kind of generally like how his history has been throughout the years. Like when he worked on Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, he then moved on to, you know, Knights of the Old Republic Republic, and when he was done with Knights of the Old Republic, he moved to Dragon Age Origins. Like he's not one of those guys who wants to stick to a project and be like the manager because he thinks that is boring. Like that's the idea I'm getting from James after having, been following, for a couple of years now. Like he is not the guy that you look to lead an entire team of people. He is the guy who builds your world, and he essentially started this because he really wanted to make this science fiction universe because, obviously he's a big D&D guy, and we haven't seen much of like science fiction in terms of D&D, like having its own setting, I guess you could say. And this is pretty much like, if you're looking at everything that's going on with Exodus, we have a tabletop game with a bunch of books. We have the Archimedes Engine book, and it's getting a sequel next year. So just looking at James, how he usually acts, this is kind of normal for him. Then again, I do understand the concern. I'm not going to say that I'm not concerned. Obviously, I'm a little bit worried here because we don't know the full story, but according to his, at least this press statement, he is apparently stepping aside himself, but he's not completely stepping aside. He is still serving a creative role as somebody that they can ask for help whenever they need to. And, after having met the Exodus folks myself, I haven't met all the team, of course. I met Chad Robertson, I met Drew Karpyshyn, one very important key person here as well, because he also helped, construct the universe and the world with James. It's not just James, it's Drew Karpyshyn too. And reminder, Drew Karpyshyn is the guy who was the lead writer for Mass Effect 1, 2, and Knights of the Old Republic. So again, he's very important, and he's still there, apparently. Unless they make a new update video saying that he's also gone. I wish to God that that doesn't happen. He's also there, and we also have Chris King, who is another veteran, but he's like mostly involved with the like general gameplay and, maybe combat. He's like the game director, right? But at any rate, I met several of these guys. I met the three of the guys that is in the leadership, and from my feelings when I met them, I've talked about this in the previous Exodus video, I felt very confident, or they felt very confident. And so, they made me feel confident too, because, especially Drew Karpyshyn, he felt very confident in the game and the writing and the characters and the companions. So, the only thing that I think people have been like turned off by is the art style and some of the animations. And I think this is the stage, because they're working to 2027. They're going to be able to polish a lot of this stuff. So again, like I've mentioned before, it's good of you guys to say, okay, they should probably look at this, they should probably fix this. I think they're still obviously working, according to feedback. So I wouldn't worry too much right now. I wouldn't panic, let's say. Now, I do still understand that there is some concern here because we don't have the full story. I don't actually think it's that bad yet. Again, you might be saying that I'm coping, and it's very possible that I might be. But again, they obviously want to make sure, they said that in this article as well, that they want to make Exodus the tip of the spear. This is their Mass Effect. This is their God of War. This is the game that is truly, aside from Baldur's Gate 3, gonna set them on the map if they can get it to be successful, of course, right? And that is most likely why they're taking so long up until early 2027 to release this, because again, it has been slated, or it was slated by Hasbro to release in 2026. Again, I've mentioned this before, I think it's mostly due to things like GTA 6. I think the game was probably gonna release sometime around holiday 2026, but because GTA releases then, they had to move it up. And so, naturally that happens. So I'm not really surprised if you really think about it. All this said, I will be keeping a watchful eye on this situation. And if you want new updates on Exodus or this or whatever when it comes to RPGs, remember to subscribe. And of course, thank you so much to my wonderful Patreon supporters. You guys are incredible. And if you want exclusive content, you could also become a Patreon supporter yourself. It's just $5 a month. Anyway, take care, guys. Thank you for watching. Mr. Ohlen signing off.